In this video, we'll be selecting with just the brackets. So first we need some data. We're going to read in this sample data set and place the first column into the index. Let's go ahead and do that. So here we have this name column and it's in the index, so they act as labels. Each one of these strings identifies and references all the values in that row, just like all of these strings over here references all of the column values. Okay, so we first learned how to select a single column of data, which will result in a series using just the brackets. So let's go ahead and do that again. We can select this column age, which creates a series. Notice that the index comes along with it and identifies all of the values. Now, if we want to select multiple columns, we have to do so with a list. So let me just show you the incorrect way of doing this. This is a common mistake. I sometimes still do this when I'm going fast. So say I want to select a couple of columns here, like age and height. If I do this, I'm going to get an error. This is not the correct way to select multiple columns. In order to do that, we need to create an inner list. And this is a little bit difficult to see, and it's a little tricky, and I'm going to cover it a little bit more detail below. But as you can, if you can see closely, this inner set of brackets creates a list, and this is the correct way on how to select columns. And notice what's returned is a data frame and not a series anymore. So if we selected 2 columns or 3, then we have a data frame and not a series. We can select any number of columns. The order doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be in the order that you see. What will be returned is the exact order that you put your columns in, like this. So here I've created a 3-column data frame and selects all of the rows by default. Okay, so a little more explanation on the inner setup, the inner square brackets versus the outer square brackets. So they are the same exact piece of syntax, same characters that you type on the screen. They're both square brackets, but they have a completely different meaning. So the inner set of square brackets defines a Python list. The outer set of square brackets over here in green represent subset selection. So when square brackets are appended directly to a variable name, and in this case our variable name is a data frame, it means, hey, I want to select some subset here. And if you pass in a list, which is what the inner square brackets are, it'll select those columns in that order as a data frame. All right, so hopefully that clears it up. Sometimes to make it extra clear, what I will do is I will use the call. I'll create a variable called calls, and let's just use the same ones that are in the image. So I'll definitely create a list. It's a little bit easier to see here. And then we'll still use the square brackets, which represent column selection. And I'll pass in the list, which is now called calls, like that, to make the selection. So that's another way of doing it. There's nothing wrong with doing it this way. It makes it very clear, so you don't get confused with these double square brackets. That's what really confuses people. Like, why are there 2 sets of square brackets here? Well, one is for the list and the other is for subset selection. Okay, so we already covered that. You can put columns in any order that you want. And so that is the main usage for just the brackets. That's the terminology I use to differentiate between loc and iloc indexers. I like this term, just the brackets. So there's no other indexer like .loc square brackets, .iloc square brackets. It's just df square brackets. And the primary purpose is either to select a single column or multiple columns like this. You can also do Boolean selection, and we will cover that in a later chapter.